Okay, we have arrived to the end of the journey. It is my turn now. I will spend only 15, no more than 20 minutes to provide you with some kind of lessons learned about after these 6 years in the EU-GUGLE project, but also taking and remembering experiences and other lessons learned from other projects. Some of the lessons learned have been already mentioned, between other things because I asked also the inputs to the district leaders that I have presented the case studies. But okay, I will go quickly on this. Okay, thank you. Okay. Very quickly, EU-GUGLE project. We had 6 pilots, which there is already a lesson learned there. 6 pilots is a huge consortium with, yes, it's very, very difficult to coordinate and to manage, but having 6 pilots, you have more room you have more flexibility in the terms that if some of the pilots fails in the objectives of achieve certain objectives, other pilots reach them or even go beyond it. So it is more easier to try to balance the final results if you have a lot of pilots. If you have a project with 2 pilots and one of them fails, you're in a problem. So 6 pilots. After 6 years, a challenge to coordinate 6 pilots, very difficult, but I think it's in our case it was a good decision in the beginning. 3 associated cities. This slide is not updated. I'm sorry for my colleagues from Plovdiv. 3 associated cities: Gothenburg, Gaziantep in Turkey, and Plovdiv in Bulgaria. 21 partners from 9 different countries, roughly 200,000 square meters of living space renovated, and savings between 40 to 80% from the baseline in the beginning. 40 to 80, because why it is not so much 80% of savings? It is because the baseline, the status of the buildings before the renovations differ very much from the regular practice in Finland, for example, in which regular practice they are, because of the climate conditions and weather conditions, their baseline is already very good, and in the southern climates in Spain or Milan, the baseline, the regular construction are not so high levels. Yes, in 6 years from 2013 to March next year. The objectives, very, very quickly, as I said, savings from 40 to 80%, and an increase up to 20% of the share of renewable energies in the districts. How did we manage to do it? By sharing the latest research results, especially in retrofitting technologies and intelligent renewable energy integration into buildings. Taking the building users and its public space as a connective environment to the project, with special attention to vulnerable groups and behavioral challenge. As an example was the experience that Jenny Loffe brought this morning. And also a key question to establish an adequate business environment favorable to smart city demonstrations. And this is a picture that we like very much, that we are putting almost since the first meeting. When you write a proposal, you think that you are living in an ideal world and everything is going to be like it's supposed to be. And then the reality bites. So, and when we are talking about refurbishment, one of the main also lessons learned is that refurbishment of buildings are complex, much more complex. Even when we knew that it was complex, it is even much more complex than you thought in the beginning. Okay, we had reached several technical achievements. We have demonstrated the performance of different innovative solutions that have been demonstrated. Some examples are the addition of high-efficient insulation of the building envelopes with innovative techniques. For example, glue-free insulation in the pilot of Milan, very innovative technique to deploy insulation panels without any glue. And thermal breaches reduction, substitution of windows and frames, mostly with triple glasses in the coldest cities. Another key issue has been in most of the EU-GUGLE projects, but more in the coldest climates, the high-performance ventilation systems with heat recovery. We have demonstrated that once you have optimized the building envelope, the performance of the building envelope, the importance, the impact of the ventilation system with recovery system is very, very high. Integration of hybrid technologies, connecting or integrating heat recovery systems in exhaust airs with solar collectors plus district heating in Tampere, and how they optimize all these hybrid technologies. The centralized heat pump with the heat recovery in the sewage network that Rosa has presented. Also very, very innovative and very success story, is performing pretty well. The bio-based material renovation in Bilbao, in Sestao, in which they make a deep renovation of one of the buildings with bio-based materials, mainly with timber. We had to suffer even a fire in that building. So, you know, when you are working with timber, there is some risk that you don't have with bricks. But we overcome that also, that challenge. DRESS integration in the retrofitted buildings, photovoltaics, solar thermal, geothermal heat pumps, and as Stefan has just explained us, the prefabricated multi-active facade in Vienna. Some of the pictures of the very case in one of the buildings in Vienna, the heat recovery system in the sewage in Aachen, buildings retrofitted also in Aachen and in Vienna. Again, yes, the heat recovery in the left, the heat recovery systems in Tampere, the multi-active facade that you have seen also, the listed buildings in Aachen, or one of the buildings in Tampere. Lessons learned. Since the technical point of view, we found, we suspected it, but we really found that the energy refurbishment of district is not, generally speaking, a technical challenge. Of course, we found challenges, but we could overcome them as a regular practice. So it was not a big deal since the technical point of view. The technology is available, but one of the challenges, still there are not many tailored for renovation concepts available. And the usual solutions used for new buildings are expensive in the retrofitting market. So the retrofitting market needs tailor-made concept for the retrofitting and have to be cost-effective, thinking in that if someone is going to build a house, he has some money saved in the bank, and he's going to be a big investment for the rest of the life. But if you need to refurbish your building, and you are an elderly people, it is not the same what you need. You need cost-optimal solutions focused for the retrofitting market, and there is not so many solutions specialized for that. This led us very often to design ad hoc solutions in each case, and it is not effective to design specific solutions for each single case. These non-standard solutions and technologies and systems require a specific know-how experience of a specialist and qualified engineers, which also means time and money. Moreover, to replicate these tailored solutions in the building is not easy. By the fact that it is tailor-made. It is for your body and not for my body. This brings us to the first conclusion, the strong need of standardization of refurbishment-oriented solutions with a relevant component of industrialization. We have to be able to build faster and quicker and cheaper in the retrofitting market. We keep on with the technical issues. The planning and building process must be designed with an integrated approach to avoid difficulties coming later during building works or in operation. It means that we have to sit into the table all the stakeholders, all the players which will have to do something, anything in the district, and put it all together and design in an integrated way all the aspects, not starting with the tectonic aspects or architectural aspects, and then to the installations or engineering aspects, and then to the urbanistic aspects. So it's a real need of an integrated approach. That led us to the need of establishment an efficient innovation ecosystem in the districts with the stakeholders. Good solutions are not enough. Good solutions need a good, trustful collaboration between the involved players. All the time, this is a main conclusion. All the time invested in discussions, analysis, agreements between the stakeholders, and research for the better solutions is probably the best invest you can do in a district renovation project. It could be interesting to find a ratio between hour invested in discussing and analysis and research and euro saved or hour avoid in try to solve problems later on. Yeah. And another issue, after the building works, there are still things to improve. Challenge in the operation and maintenance of innovative systems. Because of the lack of experience of the operation and maintenance managers, and because the usual maintenance contract don't address properly the innovative systems. So we are now in a point in which we are living in the same time the old-fashioned industry and the old-fashioned solutions and methodologies and contracts and business modelings together with very innovative techniques. And in this case, in the case of the operational and maintenance contracts, it's difficult to introduce the clause and the specific aspects to deal with the innovative elements. Another issue, very clear, there is a clear need of training in all the players in the value chain about energy efficiency, techniques and solutions. In all the value chains, I mean, since the architects, the engineers, the architects working in the administration, a lot of training in this sector, municipal technicians, building companies, blue collar workers, the strong need of training. So let's move to what have we learned about legal or administrative issues. One issue that has been repeating in all the district, the procedural barriers, which make difficult to obtain subsidies in most of the EU-GUGLE countries. I always think why it is so. I heard this reflection in one meeting. Why is so easy to get funding to buy a car? Only if you go to the car shop, they do the papers and do the applications, and directly they reduce the subsidy in the car. They reduce the subsidy from the final price. It is 5 minutes work to get a subsidy to buy a car. What is so complex to get a subsidy to renovate a building? It is sometimes I think that they have the money, but they really don't have to spend it, because it is so complicated in some countries. I'm not talking about Spain or in general, what we have learned. It is very, very, very complicated to get to go through this procedural way. There are subsidies available, but the way to apply for them and to justify is too often cumbersome process with a chilling effect. Need to a strong cooperation between different departments within the municipalities. This is another thing that we have found both in EU-GUGLE and other projects. Sometimes the barrier happens within a city because of a lack of communication between departments in the city. There is a department who is in charge of building works, and there is another department who is in charge of climate change stuff, and they don't communicate to each other, and this is something that it has been real common in our cities, a lack of communication and cooperation between local or regional or national administrations. This is a big challenge. The cities which have shown a better management of the deep renovation of the district has been those which have a specific energy management unit. The ones who not have had more difficulties to understand and manage the innovation process. This is what one of the findings that we found in Milan, in the city of Milan, in which during the duration of the EU-GUGLE project, they decided to create this specific energy efficiency unit to deal with this kind of projects. And I think that it has been one of the good outcomes of the project. And also that Rosa also mentioned before, aesthetics aspects have more weight than energy efficiency ones. Still, barriers to install solar energy systems in some places. And we are not talking about, historical buildings. We are not talking about the cathedral of a place. We are talking about simple old buildings. A building who has more than 50 years, it's considered in some cities historical building. Even if it is the ugliest building in the city. No, it has more than 50 years, so it is historical. You can't put the solar thermal collectors in the roof. Even it is going to be the most aesthetic thing in the building. No way. More. Yeah, this is very, very important issue. The procedures for public procurement make really, really difficult to introduce technological innovation in the building works. Because the innovative solutions have to compete in price with the non-innovative ones. Usually, the winner bid is the cheaper one. So there is a need to improve the innovative public procurement procedures. It is still, in general, again, generally speaking, we are far from having real procedures to make public procurement, introducing and taking into account the innovation or the innovation of the level of innovation of the solutions. It's very difficult. So at the end, in the public procurement, they give the contract to the cheaper bid. And it's very difficult in this, with these games, with the rules in the game, for the innovation technologies to get into the game. Also, we all know legal barriers or legal vacuum on renewable energy sources integration. Smart metering with personal data issues, high bureaucracy load. In this case, the most typical is why can't we consume or sell or buy electricity from one to other? It makes no sense. It is not a technical issue. It is an administrative and legal issue. And this is something that slowly will surely change, but it's also something common in most of the European countries. Yes, and other thing, in social housing and buildings for lease, the payment structure between end user, the housing company, and energy provider often doesn't incentive energy savings. We still have a lot of situations in which people pay a percentage of the energy, of the whole energy consumed in the building, depending also only of the square meters of the flat. No matter if you are very efficient and very aware of the climate change and you have your house at 18 or 19 degrees, you are going to pay, if you have 100 meters, you are going to pay a flat rate. So who can be interested in introduce and invest in energy efficiency measures in these cases? Economic issues. You see here the breakdown of the costs of the pilots of EU-GUGLE. The total investment, it is total investment of the energy efficiency related measures. So this is the money that we have spent and the structure of the financing. You see the column of the self-financing, which goes from 65 to 85%, national subsidies, and EU grant, which is the money coming from the Commission under this project. One of the barriers is how to finance the energy renovation. The speed of the subsidies available, the building owners have to self-finance the highest part of the retrofitting cost. This is the main barrier. We have seen in the Stefan presentation that the percentage covered by EU-GUGLE, it was 1% of the global cost of that building of 6 million euro. So, okay, it's 1%, it's money, it's okay, thank you, we have 1%, but it is not something that make the difference or make the owner to take the decision of if do I renovate the building or not. It's a help, but it is not a driver. So still, it's necessary to get financing to renovate. In the case of moderate renovations, when we don't touch the building envelope, for example, replacement of HVAC systems without renovating the thermal envelope, the money to save in the energy bill may be a driver, but in this renovation project, this is not enough. This is something that, and to try to justify, and this is something that Angelo highlighted this morning also, I know Angelo or, no, I think it was Francisco Javier, to try to justify the need of the deep renovation considering a financial instrument doesn't work. This is something that during years we have been listening people saying that we have to renovate the buildings because it is a good financial instrument and we are going to save money, and it is not. We have to renovate the buildings because we are going to be more comfortable, we are going to save energy, we are going to fight against the climate change, and we are going to increase the value of our property, but we are not going to earn money renovating the building because the payback periods are 20, 25, 30 years. So it is not the best financial instrument that we have available. More learnings. EU-GUGLE has shown the effectiveness of the public-private partnerships and the need to find innovative financial schemes and mechanisms. Example, the green loans or the energy efficiency mortgages, or all that this morning Alessandra and Angelo has shown us. And find the right balance between homeowners' investments, public subsidies, and other financing instruments, together with a regulatory scenario favorable to energy retrofitting, with an adequate and affordable long-term financial plans, also mentioned this morning. Also, the need to find innovative approaches with private companies like ESCOs, utilities, building companies, looking for win-win situations. I said example in the Vienna pilot, in one of the pilots in Vienna, they built 2 more floors, like 2 penthouses, over the existing, one of the existing buildings, and they sold these new dwellings, and with the money they got, they renovate the whole building. So they had new neighbors upstairs, and with that money they renovate the whole building for free. Finally, EU-GUGLE also shown the importance of finding the right scale of intervention. This is very, very important. There are individual interventions that are not profitable for the industry. But in an aggregated approach at district scale, the economy of scale may convert the project in something attractive for the industry. And I know several examples in which to renovate a building, okay, is expensive. To try to find financing to do that is challenging. But if you put together a lot of buildings and also some public spaces, you can find a big company, for example, Acciona, who I think Madalena has already left, or any big construction company that could say, okay, one single building for me is too small, but 20 buildings, if you allow me to build a district heating system, and you allow me to manage the underground parking, I can finance the retrofitting of the buildings, because it is more complex business model, taking into account the money not only for the renovation of the buildings, but also the business that they are going to get selling energy to that buildings during 20 years, and also managing the parking. So if we find the right scale, sometimes business which are not business in a single or individual way could become good business for the industry. Yeah, very quickly, because we have already spoke about this very much during the day, the importance of the keep the citizens into the loop. The main lesson learned is the need of activate as active players in the process the different key people and associations in the community. For those who are thinking in make an urban development project, urban regeneration project, my advice is find the champion. In every single project, you have to find the champion, a man or a woman who is able to engage the rest of the stakeholders, the rest of the people. The man in which is trust you and you trust them, and through him the communication with the rest of the people is easy. So in all the energy regeneration projects that I know that has been a success, I can identify who was the champion. And it's single person. It was this lady or this man, or it was, in this case, this other lady. The level of awareness and information about energy efficiency at domestic scale is very poor. There is a lot of work to be done here. Again, key issue is to provide a high level of trust with the end users. A continuous contact with them is a good tool to generate this fruitful, trustful environment. Another example, the city information offices that they are in some of the EU-GUGLE pilots, for example, in Aachen. They have open information offices, open at the commercial hours, with the same people that they know them as they were the man working in the supermarket or whatever it is. They have become one of the neighbors of the district, and they got a trustful cooperation. Yeah, I'm going to skip it. So one of these, some of these pictures you have already seen it. Citizen engagement and participation. Key issue for a successful district urban regeneration project. For the Spanish people here, we also remember some years ago, it was huge demonstrations in one Spanish city, because the municipality had decided in the hardest years of the crisis, in the years of the cutting salaries and getting people to the unemployed, to employment, and the worst day in one of the municipality in Burgos, they decide to renovate a rotonda or something, some urban infrastructure, a road, and to create a garden and with very nice trees. And people went out of the street, went out to the street, and they stopped the working machines, like in the Tiananmen Square years ago, because people didn't want to spend public money in this, because that was not a real need for them. So we don't need that nice square. We don't need that. What we need is more beds in the hospitals, more places in the schools, and so on. So the people empower and decide not, said no to some project that was decided without having asking them. So this is something that, at least for me, I think for some of the Spanish people who live there, is something that we have very much on mind. Yes, I'm finishing. Just the last words, just to say that it has been a difficult and challenging travel, but also very satisfying. And I would like to say a warm and big thanks to our partners in the EU-GUGLE project, the districts, the technology partners, all the rest of the partners. It has been really a pleasure to work with you, and I hope we could be able to make this final speed up until March to finish the project in the best way possible. So thank you, of course, the Commission for having supporting this project, and that's it. Thank you very much for your attention. Okay.